Welcome to a Dummy Does French fries. I made some hot dog buns so we can have hot dogs tonight, and I have this about half a bag of potatoes that are already starting to sprout. Maybe not a good idea to use these, but I figured we should make up a batch of fries to go with our hot dogs and use up the rest of these potatoes. So that's what we're going to do today. So there's two methods that I like to try. They seem to be quite similar. One is a cut, soak in cold water, blanch in hot water. It's not so much of a blanch as a soak. And then freeze, blanch in hot oil, and then refry. Another one is cut, boil, and simmer, cool, blanch in oil, freeze, and then fry. So we're going to try both these methods out and see which one gets better results. Obviously, both of them require your potatoes to be peeled, so I'm just going to quickly do that right now. All right, one and done. All right, let's just skip through the rest of these. I've peeled and rinsed my potatoes, and I have them in some cold water. Yeah, we're just going to put this on, bring it to a boil, and then remove it from the heat. But I'm going to do this while I cut up my potatoes. All right, so I'm going to start cutting up the potatoes. I have a lot of these tiny little ones, just because that's what the bag had. I mean, obviously, if you want nice long French fries, you want nice long potatoes. So I'm going to cut them up and do what I have using a knife. If you have a mandolin or some way of doing this way faster, go for it. I'm just going to do one, and then we'll skip ahead to all of them. Here we go. So there we have it. I'm going for a 1/4 inch thickness. Obviously, some of the ends are a bit bigger, but that's a pretty nice one right there. So yeah, I'll just do the rest of these, throwing them back in the cold water while I'm cutting them. Alright, so I think I've cut roughly half the potatoes. Here you can kind of see them. And I'm going to let these sit for about 5 minutes. My water already boiled on the stove. And I'm going to add about a half a cup of sugar to this. Most people recommend to use corn syrup and sugar. I don't know if I really want super sweet fries. If you want sweet fries, go for it. But I'm just going to leave this on a simmer until we're ready to use it, so about 5 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to cut the rest of the potatoes. And we're just going to place them in our hot water. I've turned this off, and I'm just going to remove it from the hot element. I believe this is an infusion method where you're infusing the potatoes with whatever you're placing in the water. I really wanted to try this with spice, but I only have powders. I think if you had a nice spice oil extract, you could infuse them and make some spicy fries. But we're going to try sugar and see how that works. All right, we're going to let that sit for 10 minutes. All right, so back to method one. We've got our potatoes here soaking for 10 minutes. We're going to strain them. And so they're nice and strained. We're just going to lay them out on this tea towel to dry. There we go. And we're going to pat them dry with paper towel and stick them in the freezer. At this point, you can just stick them in the freezer and fry them later because they're ready to be fried. You don't have to cook them all right away, so save for later. That done, we're going to go into method number 2. We're going to take another pot and fill it with cold water. Great, so we got cold water. We're going to add, strain these again. We're going to add our potatoes to it. Um, Now you want your potatoes to be covered with the water. These are just, that was a perfect amount. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of salt. And we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. That's a bit of a extra there. We're going to bring this to a boil and then simmer for 5 minutes. All right, so it's been 5 minutes, it's just on a simmer, and we're going to strain these. And then just lay them out here to dry on our paper towel cloth tray. All right, so while those are drying, we're going to heat up our oil. All right, so we got our giant pot with some oil in the bottom. Give yourself lots of space because as you add the fries in, it's going to bubble up. Do not do this in a shallow pot, or, I mean, if you do it in a wide pan, have a really small amount of oil. Just whatever you do, be very, very careful when you do this process. You do not want to have an oil overflow, spillage, and a giant fire. So be incredibly careful. Don't. All right. So we're just going to blanch our fries. I'm going to add them as slowly as I can to make sure that they don't bubble up too much. So you can see it's bubbling up quite a bit. If you had a shallow pot, that would be overflowing. So just going to let it for a minute. All right. All right, round 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of these. All right, so they're all blanched, and we're just going to pat them dry and stick them in the freezer to freeze. We're going to take our fries that were in the freezer, and we're going to pat them dry. Some of them turned brown. That's a little funny. Alright, so this is method 1, where we soaked them in hot water with sugar and then stuck them straight into the freezer. So now we're going to blanch these ones. Now, because these are frozen, we need to blanch them for a little bit longer. So we're going to do 2 minutes. Alright, so I may have put them in for a bit too long. They're just starting to get color. And so we're just going to let that oil come off and let them sit. Alright, so I've got my just flash fried fries here, and we're just going to let them sit for a bit while we wait for the other ones to freeze, and then we're going to final fry both sets and see which one we like better. Alright, so our limp fries are ready for our second frying. So this is method 1. So we've blanched them in the oil, and then we just let them sit. So I'm gonna refry them. good. We have a nice brown. And we're just going to stick them on some paper towel. Now, pretty sure your cook times are going to vary depending on how hot your oil is. I haven't temped this one, so I really don't know how hot it is. It did not take very long. Also, depending on how many fries you put in there, because if you put in a ton of fries, it'll lower the temperature. There we go. Season as desired for nice crispy fry. Alright, so I'm going to try my second batch. That's method number 2, where I blanched them, then froze them. I'm probably going to have to redo the frying process because I don't think I got a good freeze. So they're definitely cold, but they're still like floppy. They're not frozen, as they probably should be. So yeah, as I said, we're just going to try this, and I'll probably have to redo it. All right, there we go. Let's see if I can get that. I think it was about a minute. So sprinkle some salt or whatever your seasoning you want, and we're gonna give these a try. So I thought I'd have to like redo the experiment by making sure that the fries were frozen, but that second batch of fries was amazing, and I'm pretty sure that the secret is you need to freeze your fries before you fry them a second time. So in between blanching them in oil and then frying them to serve, you freeze them. That's essentially what you're doing when you're buying store-bought fries. They're coming to you frozen. So if you want to make them at home like the restaurants, prep them whatever way you want and then blanch them. Stick them in the freezer, let them freeze, and then refry them, and you're going to get a way better tasting fry. Thanks so much for watching, and God bless.